The first elected female president in Africa, Mrs. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf of Liberia. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, Liberia, 2006 to 2018. She's a Liberia politician, a stateswoman, a human rights activist, an economist, a leading member of the Unity Party, UP, women empowerment activist, a mother, a co-winner of Nobel Peace Prize, and the first elected female president in Africa who served as the 24th president of Liberia from 2006 to 2018. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, born as Ellen Eugenia Johnson in October 1938 in Monrovia, Liberia. She started her political career far back in the 70s when she was appointed as a Deputy Minister of Finance in 1971 to 1974 and the first female Minister of Finance from 1979 under President William Tolbert's government until 1980 in Liberia, when Samuel Doe seized power in a coup d'etat and executed President William Tolbert. Mrs. Sirleaf initially accepted a post in the new government as the president of the Liberian Bank for Development and Investment, but later fled the country to USA in November 1980 after publicly criticizing Samuel Doe and the People's Redemption Council for their mismanagement of the country. Mrs. Johnson Sirleaf, while in the United States, worked with the World Bank in Washington, D.C. She returned to Liberia in 1985 to continue her political career, but was placed under house arrest in August 1985, and soon after sentenced to 10 years in prison for sedition as a result of a speech she delivered in which she criticized the members of the Samuel Doe regime. But later, President Doe pardoned her as a result of international pressure on Doe's government to release her. She contested a senatorial seat for Montserrado County in the general election. Though Mrs. Sirleaf was declared the winner of her Senate race, she refused to accept the seat in protest of the election fraud. She said, "The government appealed to me to take my Senate seat, which I had won in the election, but I refused on the basis that this would be legitimizing an illegitimate government." However, upon all these, Sirleaf continued to be involved in politics. In 1997, she contested the presidential election, which she lost to Charles Taylor, the warlord. It's believed that during the Liberia Civil War, Mrs. Sirleaf initially supported Charles Taylor in the war, but later parted company with him due to excesses. In October 2020, Mrs. Johnson Sirleaf recalled, "I was jailed twice and sent on exile from my own country because I chose to be a resounding voice for the people at the maiden edition of the annual Gender Equality Conference organized by the Kwara State government in Nigeria." Mrs. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf won the 2005 presidential general election on the ticket of Unity Party, UP, and took office on 16th January 2006 at the age of 67 as the first ever democratically elected female president in Africa and the 24th president of Liberia. She was re-elected in 2011 for her second term in office. In June 2016, President Sirleaf was elected as the chair of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, making her the first woman to hold the position since it was created in 1975. Mrs. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf assumed the presidency in 2006, inheriting a country devastated by years of civil war. Her leadership was marked by a commitment to post-conflict recovery, reconciliation, and infrastructure development. Under her tenure, Liberia experienced relative stability and economic growth, with a focus on infrastructure development such as roads, schools, hospitals, electricity, etc., and poverty reduction. Former President Sirleaf's administration implemented a range of policies to address the country's challenges. She prioritized infrastructure development, education, and health care, as well as provision of social and basic amenities. The Poverty Reduction Strategy, PRS, was a key initiative aimed at reducing poverty and promoting sustainable development. Additionally, efforts were made to attract foreign investment and enhance transparency in government operations. In 2007, President Sirleaf issued an executive order making education free and compulsory for all elementary school-aged children in Liberia to enhance literacy among Liberia citizens. The Liberian economy saw positive trends from negative during Johnson Sirleaf's presidency. Economic growth was stimulated by foreign investments, particularly in the mining and natural resource sectors. She worked hard with the international creditors to cancel a chunk of Liberia's debt and eventually joined highly indebted poor countries, HIPC, in 2008, and by June 2010, the country qualified for HIPC initiative and got a relief from its entire external debt. However, challenges such as high unemployment rates and economic inequality still persist. In 2014, the country was hit by Ebola pandemic, leading to the death of about 4,800 Liberians. This also affected the country economically under President Sirleaf regime. But for her able leadership, the country had successfully overcome the pandemic. President Sirleaf worked towards improving governance by implementing anti-corruption measures and strengthening institutions. She emphasized the importance of good governance and accountability to ensure sustainable development. But somewhere along her administration, it was alleged that she was caught up with nepotism by appointing a number of her family members and children into key government positions, as well as interference in the work of anti-corruption institutions. President Sirleaf's foreign policy was based on democracy, non-interference, dialogue, bilateral and multilateral cooperation, and did not support war or violence in any form. Her government dealt with both the West and the Chinese on the basis of mutual respect. While there were improvements on human rights conditions during her presidency, challenges remained. Efforts were made to rebuild the justice system, address issues of gender-based violence, and promote human rights awareness. However, concerns were raised about media or press freedom and the need for further progress in protecting individual liberties. In March 2012, President Sirleaf addressed the issue of gay rights, saying that she would not repeal the current law on same-sex, but would also not sign into law either of the two proposed bills on homosexuality. She added that, "We like ourselves just the way we are. We've got certain traditional values in our society that we would like to preserve." On political appointments, President Sirleaf appointed individuals to key positions within her government, with a focus on inclusivity and diversity. Notably, she appointed women to prominent roles and positions, breaking gender barriers in Liberian politics. President Johnson Sirleaf said she will always give credit to the doggedness and resilience of Liberian women, which contributed to her emergence as the first Liberian and African female president. As a leading promoter of freedom, peace, justice, women's empowerment, and democratic rule, she's been recognized all over the world for her roles. Former President Johnson Sirleaf received several accolades for her leadership and contributions to peace and development. In 2011, she was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize along with Lema Gbowi, a Liberia national, and Tawakkol Karman, a Yemen national, for their efforts to promote a woman's rights and peace building. Throughout her presidency, she received recognition for her commitment to democratic governance and economic development from several countries. Among them includes Forbes magazine named Sirleaf as the 51st most powerful woman in the world in 2006. In 2010, Newsweek listed her as one of the 10 best leaders in the world, while Time counted her among the top 10 female leaders in the world, and The Economist called her arguably the best president the country has ever had. In 2017, former President Johnson Sirleaf was awarded the Mo Ibrahim Prize for Achievement in African Leadership. The Mo Ibrahim Prize recognizes leaders who during their tenure in office have developed their countries, strengthened democracy and human rights for the shared benefit of their people, and advanced sustainable development. However, during the 2017 presidential campaign in Liberia, former President Johnson Sirleaf crossed party lines or carpet to support George Weah and was expelled from the Unity Party in January 2018 by the National Executive Committee, the party, for failing to support Unity Party's presidential candidate and her own vice president, Joseph Boakai. Even as she left power, Johnson Sirleaf continues to fight for women empowerment. She has established the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf Presidential Center for Women and Development, the EJS Center, in Monrovia, dedicated to advancing women's aspirations for development in Africa. She also published her memoir in 2009 entitled This Child Will Be Great, a remarkable life by Africa's first woman president. Former President Sirleaf's impact on Liberia is multifaceted, with both praise and criticism. Her leadership had undeniably shaped the nation, fostered economic development, infrastructure, governance, human rights, women empowerment, political stability, etc., while grappled with challenges related to press freedom, high unemployment rates, corruption among her appointees, and nepotism. Also, many citizens believe that former President Sirleaf is more popular outside his country than in Liberia. But all in all, the first female president in Africa and the 24th president of Liberia has done her bit for her country, Liberia, Africa, and the world at large. She's currently at age 86 and active. Her legacy lives. Many people refer to her as the Iron Lady of Africa. Long live Mrs. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Long live Liberia. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Bye.